Everyone in the capital's elite circles envied us. We were the it couple. But with our wedding just days away, Zhu Yangchuan dropped a bombshell. I don't want to miss out on the person I truly love. He abandoned me to marry his sweet and bubbly junior apprentice. 3 years later, when our paths crossed again at a high society gala, I simply offered a thin smile. Can't talk now, my husband is waiting for me. My name is Shen Nan and I was born into the Shens, a prominent family in the capital. To the outside world, I was the luckiest woman in the city because I was engaged to Zhu Yangchuan. Who is he? He's the head of the Zhu Group, young, powerful, and the man who dictates the city's economic winds, handsome and influential. He was the bachelor every socialite was dying to marry. Our alliance was seen as a match made in heaven. From the moment our engagement was announced, I was showered with envious looks wherever I went. Our wedding was set for the 18th of the month, only 3 days away. The entire Shen household was in a frenzy of preparation. My gown was a top-tier French couture piece. Our rings featured a one-of-a-kind pair of pink diamonds, and Yangchuan had personally overseen the venue decor. Everyone said he spoiled me to death. I too believed I had found my soulmate. Yangchuan and I had known each other for 10 years and been together for 5. For him I had smoothed over all my sharp edges. I gave up studying abroad and turned down projects I loved, all to learn how to be the perfect, graceful future Mrs. Zhu. I adapted to his tastes and forced myself into his social circles. I thought my devotion would earn his. I never imagined that with 3 days to go, a sudden press conference would shatter my world. That morning, while I was at my final fitting for my gown, my phone started blowing up. My best friend called me, her voice cracking. Nan, check the news right now. Zhu Yangchuan is holding a press conference. He's calling off the wedding. The veil slipped from my hands, my heart skipped a beat and a chill raced from my toes to the top of my head. I scrambled to turn on the TV, and there he was, clad in a crisp black suit, standing before a sea of microphones and cameras. He didn't look guilty at all. Instead, he looked more determined than I'd ever seen him. Below the stage, reporters were in an uproar, firing questions like bullets. President Zhu, is this an emergency announcement? Your wedding to Miss Shen is in 3 days. Is everything on track? Yangchuan picked up the mic, his gaze sweeping the room. He spoke with chilling clarity. I called this press conference today to announce one thing. My engagement to Miss Shen Nan is officially terminated. The wedding scheduled for 3 days from now is cancelled. The room exploded. The reporters' gasps and shouts nearly took the roof off. I gripped the skirt of my wedding dress so hard my knuckles turned white, my blood turned to ice, even breathing felt like a physical pain. A reporter shouted over the noise, President Zhu, why the sudden cancellation? Is there a conflict between the families? Do you realize the impact this will have on the Shen family and Miss Shen herself? Yangchuan remained impassive. He looked into the camera, as if looking directly at me, and uttered the words that would haunt me for a lifetime. I know this is sudden, but I don't want to miss out on the person I truly love. Life is short. I refuse to sacrifice my heart for a strategic family alliance and fail the woman I truly care about. With that, he set down the mic and walked off, leaving the reporters in a frenzy and me staring at the screen, cold to the bone. The staff at the bridal shop were too terrified to speak, watching me warily as if I might snap at any second. My parents rushed in, seeing me looking like a ghost. My mother pulled me into a tearful hug. Nan, it's okay, we're here. My father's face was livid, his hands shaking with rage. That brat, what did the Shens ever do to him? How dare he humiliate my daughter like this? I'm going to the Jews right now and demand an explanation. I held him back and shook my head. Dad, don't. He looked at me, heartbroken. Nan, he's treated you like dirt. How can you just take this? I looked at the pale girl in the mirror, draped in white lace. I took a deep breath, forcing back the tears. The moment those words left his mouth, our 10 years of history and 5 years of love were dead. Tears are useless. They only satisfy the people waiting to laugh at me. If he wants out, he's out, I said. The Shens don't need the Jews to survive. If he doesn't want to marry me, I certainly don't want him either. But I knew the truth. Yangchuan hadn't just slapped me in the face. He had tossed the entire Shen family into a furnace. Sure enough, within an hour, the news was everywhere. I became the city's biggest laughingstock. The girl dumped by Zhu Yangchuan. The Shen Group's stock plummeted instantly. Panic hit the office. Partners called to cut ties, and my family was swallowed by a whirlwind of scandal and financial crisis. Then came the real kicker. That very afternoon, Yangchuan was spotted at the Bureau of Civil Affairs. flamboyantly clutching a young girl's hand to register their marriage. Her name was Lin Xiaolu, his junior from university, a supposedly pure and innocent girl from a humble background. The internet went wild again. Everyone realized that the woman he didn't want to miss out on was her. For a girl he'd known for less than a year, he had publicly shredded our engagement and ground the Shuns into the dirt. My mother trembled as she read the headlines. This Zhu Yangchuan and that girl, this is too much. I stared at the photo of their marriage certificate in the picture. Xiaolu leaned into his chest with a naive smile, while Yangchuan looked at her with pure adoration. I locked my phone, my face a mask of indifference, but my heart was a block of ice. Zhu Yangchuan, Lin Xiaolu, just you wait. The humiliation you heaped on me and my family today, I will pay you back with interest. The news of their marriage sent shockwaves through the elite circles. No one expected the mighty Zhu Yangchuan to ditch the Shuns for a nobody like Lin Xiaolu, effectively making an enemy of the established families. To make matters worse, he wasn't just married, he was throwing a lavish wedding for her on the exact date that was supposed to be ours. It was a blatant provocation. The city's eyes were on me, waiting for me to crumble, to scream, to fall apart. The friends I used to have sent fake sweet messages to pry for details, while others cut me off entirely to avoid offending the Jews. Even our relatives came over, pretending to comfort us while blaming me for not being able to keep a man. But through it all, I didn't shed a single tear. I didn't hunt Yangchuan down to make a scene, and I certainly didn't beg. I woke up, ate, dressed impeccably, and handled the company's business with a calm that unnerved everyone. They thought I'd lost my mind from the trauma. They were wrong. I wasn't just sad, I just knew that crying wouldn't solve a damn thing. Yangchuan expected me to be a broken woman, living in his shadow forever. I refused. He wanted me to be a joke. I would become something he could never reach. On the day of the wedding, every VIP in the city attended their ceremony. I heard it was 10 times more magnificent than the one planned for me. He promised to protect her and love her forever, to never let her suffer a single grievance. I didn't go. I didn't stay home to mope either. I spent the entire day in the Shun Group's boardroom with the shareholders. The topic, our failing overseas assets. Years ago, the Shuns had invested in a financial venture abroad. It had been mismanaged into the ground, further gutted by an executive who fled with the funds. It was a debt-ridden mess that no one wanted to touch. The board urged me to let it go and file for bankruptcy to save what was left of the domestic company. I shook my head and made an announcement that stunned them all. I am going abroad to take over the overseas branch personally. I'm going to fix it. The room erupted. One veteran shareholder yelled, "Nan, have you lost it? If seasoned pros couldn't save that wreck, how can a girl like you do it? Leaving now just makes us look like we're running away." I looked him in the eye. I know your concerns, but the Jews have us cornered here. Staying in the capital is a slow death. The overseas branch is a mess, but it's our only play. If I can turn it around, we won't have to answer to anyone ever again. As for the gossip, once I come back with results, the laughter will turn into respect. They fell silent. They were looking at a version of the Shun heiress they'd never seen before. Gone was the gentle girl who followed Yangchuan around, replaced by someone with ice in her veins and fire in her eyes. They agreed. After the meeting, my parents looked at me with worry. "Nan, it's dangerous and difficult out there. How can we let you go alone?" I hugged them. "Dad, Mom, don't worry. I'm not that little girl anymore. You've protected me long enough. Now it's my turn to protect the Shuns. This city is full of my past with him and people's whispers. If I stay, I'll always be the woman Zhu Yangchuan dumped. I need to go somewhere where no one knows me and build something from nothing. I'm going to show them that I'm not a delicate vine that dies without a tree to lean on. I am the tree." A week later, I packed my life into a few suitcases and booked a flight. I didn't tell anyone. As the plane took off and the city shrank below, I felt no regret. Zhu Yangchuan, Lin Xiaolu, and everyone waiting for my downfall. Watch me. When I return, I will be the one they fear, and the debt you owe me, I'm coming for it. After a dozen hours in the air, the plane touched down in an overseas financial hub. Stepping out of the airport, I was met with a foreign skyline, a torrential flow of traffic, and a sea of unfamiliar faces speaking a language I didn't use daily. I took a deep breath. There wasn't a trace of fear in my heart, only ironclad resolve. I had arranged for a pickup from the skeleton crew left at the Shun family's overseas branch. After a 30-minute drive, the car pulled up in front of a dilapidated office building in a remote corner of the city. The facade was peeling, and the elevator groaned so ominously I thought it might plummet at any second. Our international branch occupied the top floor. It was a ghost town. A handful of employees were scattered across a space thick with dust and littered with discarded files. There wasn't even a proper reception desk. Seeing the wreckage, the reality of how deep this hole was finally sank in. The man in charge was Uncle Wang, a veteran who'd been with the Shuns for over a decade. He looked at me with weary resignation. "Miss Shun, you're finally here. As you can see, the company is a hollow shell. Most have jumped ship. Only a few of us are left. We're drowning in tens of millions in debt. Creditors are at our throats every day, and the banks are threatening to foreclose. We're at the end of our rope." "Uncle Wang, thank you for sticking it out," I said calmly. "Give me the full picture." With a heavy sigh, he dropped a massive stack of folders in front of me, financial reports, debt ledgers, and a pile of botched project contracts. I sat in a dusty chair and began flipping through them, my brow furrowing deeper with every page. It was worse than I'd imagined. Total liabilities exceeded 100 million. There was less than 100,000 left in the corporate account, not even enough to cover payroll. Every active project was a money pit that hemorrhaged cash with zero return. To top it off, the previous manager who fled had signed several illegal contracts in the company's name. We were legally shackled to his mess. Uncle Wang watched my expression. "Miss Shen, it's not that we didn't try. The hole is just too big to fill. Head office sent a few people before, but they all took one look and ran. If you can't find a way, we'll have to file for bankruptcy and liquidation." The remaining staff looked at me with hollow eyes. They hadn't been paid in months and had long since given up hope. I closed the folder and looked them in the eye. "Listen to me," I said, my voice steady and commanding. "As long as I, Shen Nan, am standing here, this company will not go bankrupt. Every cent of back pay owed to you will be paid in full. If you're willing to fight alongside me, I promise you things will only get better from here." They looked skeptical. They didn't believe a girl who looked like she'd just stepped off a graduation stage could revive a company rooted in rot. I didn't waste time arguing. I let my actions speak. That afternoon, I paid their back wages out of my own pocket. Then, I rolled up my sleeves and led the charge in cleaning the office and reorganizing every single file. Seeing the cash hit their accounts, the staff finally looked at me with a glimmer of trust and perhaps a spark of hope. In the days that followed, I practically lived in the office. I averaged 3 hours of sleep, spending the rest of my time dissecting financial statements, untangling projects, and negotiating with creditors and banks. The creditors were vultures. They swarmed the office daily, screaming for blood and refusing to listen. Once, a group of them burst in and flipped my desk, pointing at my face and threatening to sue me until I rotted in a cell. I didn't flinch. I looked them dead in the eye, laid out the company's actual situation, and presented a granular repayment plan. I guaranteed that if they gave me 6 months, I'd pay them back in full plus interest. Seeing my composure and the sheer professionalism of my plan, they eventually backed down and granted me a 6-month grace period. I hit the banks just as hard, wearing them down until they agreed to an extension, narrowly avoiding a lawsuit. With the immediate fires put out, I audited our projects. I ruthlessly cut the dead weight, terminating every project with no profit potential to stop the bleeding. I left only one, a new energy finance project. It was a strategic move my family had made years ago that had been mothballed due to a lack of funding and poor leadership. I could see its potential. It was our only ticket to a comeback, but a comeback required capital. The money I had was gone, spent on debts and salaries. I scouted every local investment firm, but the moment they saw our balance sheet, they laughed me out of the room. "Investment for a sinking ship, you're delusional," they said. Those were my darkest days. I was running myself ragged, hitting wall after wall, but I never considered quitting. Every night, no matter how exhausted, I told myself, "Shen Nan, you cannot lose. If you lose, you really will become the joke they want you to be." The turning point came when I least expected it. I attended a local financial summit, hoping to rub shoulders with potential investors. The moment I entered, I was intercepted by a group of local venture capitalists. Their eyes were dripping with mockery. "Well, if it isn't the heiress of that bankrupt little firm, what are you doing here? Begging for a handout for your dumpster fire? Don't waste your breath. No one's buying. My business is none of your concern," I replied icily. Just then a deep, resonant voice drifted from behind me. "On the contrary, I find Miss Shen's project to be highly valuable." I turned. A man was walking toward us. He wore a bespoke black suit that hugged a tall, powerful frame. His features were deep-set and strikingly handsome. his aura composed yet dangerously intense. He radiated a don't-touch authority that made everyone around him hold their breath. The men who had just been mocking me turned pale. They bowed so low their heads nearly hit the floor. I would later learn his name, Xie Changyuan. He was a reclusive titan who held the puppet strings of international capital. In the world of high finance, his word was law. Xie Changyuan stepped up to me and extended a hand. "Miss Shen, I'm Xie Changyuan. I'm very interested in your new energy finance project. Do you have time for a detailed discussion?" I stared at his hand, then at the genuine appreciation in his eyes. I was stunned, but I quickly recovered and shook it. "President Xie, it would be my pleasure." I never dreamed that in my hour of greatest need, the hand stretched out to save me would belong to a man I'd never even met. Even less did I know that this encounter would rewrite the rest of my life. After the summit, we sat in a quiet cafe nearby. I laid everything out, the roadmap, the revenue model, the future scaling, and every single obstacle we faced. I didn't sugarcoat a thing. I expected him to balk at the risk like everyone else. Instead, he looked at me with unmistakable admiration. "Miss Shen, your planning is impeccable, and your vision is far-reaching. This project has massive potential. I'll provide the seed funding." I blinked, breathless. "President Xie, are you serious? You're willing to invest?" He nodded. "Absolutely. I'll provide the capital, the distribution channels, and my own resources to get this off the ground, but I have one condition." "Anything," I said immediately. "If it's within my power, I'll do it." A faint, almost imperceptible smile played on his lips. "It's simple. I want a 30% stake. Furthermore, you are to have total operational and decision-making control. I won't interfere. I trust your judgment." I was floored. Most investors want to micromanage every penny, but he was giving me a blank check and total autonomy. "President Xie, you trust me that much? Aren't you afraid I'll lose your money?" He locked eyes with me. "I'm never wrong about people. The moment I saw you remain unfazed by those men's insults, I knew you were something else. In your hands, this project cannot fail." His words were a beacon in the dark. Since moving abroad, I had been met with nothing but doubt. Everyone thought I was a failure, a dumped woman who couldn't possibly fix a broken business. Only Xie Changyuan saw me. Only he believed in my capability. A wave of warmth flooded my chest. "President Xie, thank you. I won't let you down. I won't betray your trust. I look forward to the results," he said smoothly. The next day, 100 million landed in our corporate account. Every cent was there. He also assigned his elite team to coordinate with me, providing access to markets I couldn't have reached in a decade. With the capital and resources secured, I threw myself into the project, my team, and I worked around the clock. I polished the plans, secured partnerships, and negotiated channels, often sleeping only 2 hours a night. I lost weight, but I felt stronger than ever. Seeing me push myself so hard, the staff were galvanized. The ghost town office transformed into a hive of high-octane energy. Xie Changyuan visited often. He'd bring food and drinks for the team, never stepping on my toes, but offering surgical advice when I hit a snag. He never looked down on me for being a woman. He respected my decisions and admired my grit. With his backing and our blood, sweat, and tears, the project launched in just 3 months. It was an overnight sensation. User growth exploded and profits blew past our wildest projections. Within 6 months, the project had cleared over 100 million in profit. We paid off every single debt. We were no longer a dumpster fire. We were the black horse of the local financial scene. The people who had mocked me now scrambled to get a meeting, desperate to invest. I rejected every single one of them. Uncle Wang looked at the bustling office, his eyes red. "Miss Shen, you actually did it. If the old chairman could see you now, he'd be so proud. The Shens finally have a future." Looking at the vibrant office and the city skyline beyond, my heart was full. The blood, the sweat, the exhaustion, it was all worth it. I had pulled myself out of the abyss. I had proved I wasn't a vine needing a tree. I wasn't the pitiful ex-fiancé anymore. And none of it would have happened without Xie Changyuan. After the project's success, I went to see him immediately. I wanted to pay back his investment with interest and offer him a larger share of the profits. He refused. He looked at me, his gaze intense and serious. "Shen Nan, I told you I believed in your ability. That investment was my choice, and besides," his voice dropped an octave, carrying a trace of tenderness, "I wasn't just investing in the project, I was investing in you." My heart skipped a beat. From that point on, my life became increasingly intertwined with Xie Changyuan's. We talked strategy, analyzed markets, shared meals, and watched the world go by together. He remembered every little preference of mine when I was too buried in work to eat. He'd appear with a hot meal when I pulled all-nighters. He'd stay by my side in comfortable silence. Beneath his cold, ruthless exterior lay a man of surprising warmth and meticulous care. In that foreign land, he gave me a level of respect and devotion I had never known, and slowly, the ice around my heart began to thaw. During our project's first anniversary celebration in my second year abroad, Chang Yuan confessed his feelings. Holding a bouquet of white roses, he looked at me with sobering sincerity. "Shen Nan, I've been drawn to you from the moment we met. I've seen you at your lowest and at your most brilliant, and I love every version of you. Will you give me a chance to walk the rest of this path by your side?" Looking into his eyes, I smiled and nodded. "I will." I finally understood. True love doesn't ask you to shave off your edges or abandon yourself to please someone else. It gives you the security to be exactly who you are, making you more confident, more courageous, and more radiant than ever. With Chang Yuan by my side, my career skyrocketed. Together we conquered the international financial scene, acquiring companies, and expanding our reach until we formed our own conglomerate, the Nanyuan Group. In just 3 years, Nanyuan became a titan that no one dared to cross, and I, the once discarded heiress, had transformed into the queen of finance. Now the mere mention of the name Shen Nan commanded instant respect. Meanwhile, back in the capital, Zhu Yanchuan's life was a complete train wreck, a stark contrast to mine. Over those 3 years, his happily ever after with Lin Xiaolu had soured. Once she secured her place in the Zhu family, her true colors bled through. She wasn't some innocent student, she was a master manipulator. Leveraging Yanchuan's initial infatuation, she treated the Zhu fortune like her personal piggy bank, blowing hundreds of millions on designer bags, diamonds, and luxury cars. Worse yet, she was desperate to break into high society, but her lack of class and education made her a walking disaster. She constantly breached etiquette and made a fool of herself at galas, dragging Yanchuan's reputation through the mud. The elite families, already wary of Yanchuan after he broke our engagement, began to shun the Jews entirely. To top it all off, Xiaolu was funneling company assets behind Yanchuan's back and packing the Zhu group with her incompetent relatives. They bled the company dry from the inside, sending performance into a tailspin. Yanchuan tried to endure it for the sake of true love, but as his empire crumbled and his peers treated him like a pariah, regret finally set in. He began to starve for the life he had with me. He missed how I kept his world organized, how I smoothed over corporate crises, and how I effortlessly maintained his social standing with grace. He finally realized that he hadn't just thrown away a fiancée, he had discarded the ultimate partner, the only woman capable of standing level with him. He started telling anyone who would listen how much he regretted breaking our engagement, but there is no medicine for regret. He had no idea that the Shen Nan he threw away 3 years ago was gone. I was coming back cloaked in glory, and I was going to show him exactly what kind of treasure he had tossed into the trash. Autumn arrived, and the capital was buzzing about a top-tier private auction gala. The hosts were the city's most prestigious family, and the guest list was a who's who of global power. But the real frenzy was over the secret VIP guests, Xie Changyuan and the mysterious head of the Nanyuan Group, Shen Nan. The social circles were in an uproar. Who was this Shen Nan from overseas? How did she earn a seat next to a titan like Xie Changyuan in the capital? Changyuan was a living legend, a man whose wealth made the local old money look like pocket change. He rarely returned to the country, and everyone was desperate to curry favor. No one suspected that this mystery mogul was the same woman who had been the city's biggest joke 3 years ago, and even fewer knew that Xie Changyuan was my husband. We had already registered our marriage abroad in a private, intimate ceremony. Changyuan had wanted a global spectacle, but I told him, let's wait until we're back home. I want the grandest wedding in front of every person who ever looked down on me. He had smiled and pulled me close. Whatever you want, I'm with you. The day we returned, we landed in a private jet. My parents were waiting on the tarmac. The moment I stepped off the plane, my mother's eyes welled up. She ran to pull me into a fierce hug. Nan, my baby, you're finally home. I'm back, Mom, I whispered, and I'm not leaving again. My father looked at me, then at Changyuan, his eyes full of pride. He reached out a hand. Changyuan, thank you for looking after her these past 3 years. Changyuan shook his hand firmly. Dad, it was my honor. My parents froze at the word Dad. I smiled and lifted my hand, letting the diamond ring catch the light. I forgot to mention, Chang Yuan and I are married. They were overjoyed practically. Beaming as they ushered us into the car as we drove through the familiar streets, a wave of emotion hit me. 3 years ago, I left like a fugitive, fleeing the mockery. Today, I was back as the head of a global powerhouse, with the world's most powerful man by my side. Zhu Yangchuan, Lin Xiaolu, are you ready? Because Shen Nan is back. The night of the gala arrived. I wore a bespoke wine-red mermaid gown paired with heirloom diamonds. My hair was swept up to reveal a slender neckline, and my aura was one of cold, effortless elegance. Beside me, Chang Yuan was the picture of power in his black tuxedo. When our car pulled up to the hotel, the flashbulbs were blinding. Reporters scrambled to catch a glimpse of the mysterious woman from Nanyuan. But the moment they saw my face, the cameras almost fell from their hands. The silence was deafening, followed by a literal explosion of noise. Miss Shen, is it really you? Where have you been for 3 years? How are you the head of Nanyuan? What is your relationship with President Xie? The questions fired like cannons. Chang Yuan stepped slightly in front of me, his icy gaze sweeping the crowd. His sheer presence caused the reporters to recoil in fear. Clear the way, he commanded his security. He rested a hand on my waist and leaned down, his voice a low, tender murmur. Don't be afraid, I've got you. I'm not afraid, I smiled. We walked into the ballroom. The gilded hall went dead silent. Every head turned, every eye widened, looking at the radiant woman on the arm of Xie Changyuan. The elite of the city looked like they had seen a ghost. I ignored the gasps and walked toward the center of the room with poised, unshakable confidence. 3 years ago, I was ground into the dirt here. Today, I was at the very top of the food chain. This gala was only the beginning. The silence lasted 30 seconds before the whispers started. My God, it's really her. The change is terrifying. She looks like a different person. Is she actually with Xie Changyuan? How is that even possible? The same socialites who had called me a useless divorcee now straightened their dresses and flocked toward me, wearing masks of sycophancy. The leader of the pack, a woman who had been the loudest in mocking me 3 years ago, approached with a nauseatingly sweet smile. Nan, it's been too long. You look absolutely stunning. We've missed you. I didn't even lift my hand. I gave her a flat, cold stare. Are we close? I don't recall you being this affectionate 3 years ago. Her smile froze. She turned bright red, looking like she wanted the floor to swallow her whole. The others backed off instantly, terrified of being humiliated. 3 years ago you all couldn't distance yourselves fast enough, I said, my voice carrying across the circle. You laughed behind my back and called me a joke. Now that I'm back, you want to play friends. Don't you think it's a bit late for that? They all dropped their heads, unable to utter a word. I walked toward the head table where the host was waiting. He bowed low, almost trembling with respect. President Xie, President Shen, what an absolute honor to have you both. You've made this evening truly legendary. I sat down in the seat of honor. The vultures watched from a distance, their eyes filled with a mix of awe and terror. I knew Yangchuan and Xiaolu were here somewhere, and I was ready to collect every debt they owed me. Just then, a commotion broke out at the entrance of the ballroom. I looked up to see Zhu Yangchuan walking in, with Lin Xiaolu in tow. 3 years had changed him drastically. The high-spirited arrogance was gone, replaced by a deep-seated exhaustion. His eyes were bloodshot, his hair had prematurely thinned and grayed, and though his suit was still a designer label, it hung off him like a shroud of his former glory. He looked broken, diminished. Beside him, Lin Xiaolu was dressed in a pink gown, her heavy makeup failing to mask the sharpness of her features and the haggard lines around her eyes. She clung to Yanchuan's arm with a desperate sort of vanity, her eyes darting around the room trying to force herself into a circle that clearly wanted nothing to do with her. They walked in expecting the usual sycophancy, but instead they were met with cold shoulders. People glanced at them briefly before looking away, whispering and snickering behind their hands. Yanchuan's face darkened as the realization of his social exile set in. He frowned and led Xiaolu further into the room, only to lock eyes with me. The moment he realized I was the one sitting in the seat of honor, he froze, his eyes widened as if he were seeing a ghost. The wine glass in his hand slipped, shattering on the floor and splashing red wine across his shoes. He stood there trembling, staring at me, his voice a disbelieving rasp. Shen Nan, is it really you? Xiaolu saw me too. Her fake smile vanished instantly, replaced by a mask of jealousy and panic. She gripped Yanchuan's arm so hard her knuckles turned white. The ballroom fell silent once more, the guests shifting their gaze between us, Hungry for the impending drama, I watched his panicked state with a faint, effortless curve of my lips. I took a slow sip of my champagne, not even bothering to stand up. 3 years ago, he stood on a global stage and shredded our lives with a single, flippant sentence. Today, I sat on the throne while he stood in the crowd like a pathetic clown. The tables hadn't just turned, they had been flipped. Now it was his turn to taste the dirt. The silence stretched for a full minute before Yang Chuan finally snapped. He shoved Xiaolu aside and stumbled toward me. He stopped a few feet away, his lips quivering, unable to form a coherent sentence. When he finally spoke, his voice was a broken wreck. Nan, it's really you, you're back. I spared him a fleeting glance, my tone as flat as a desert floor. Mr. Zhu, we aren't that close, please address me as President Shen. The title Mr. Zhu hit him like a physical blow. He turned deathly pale, his eyes swimming with agony and regret. Nan, I know I was wrong, I was a fool. I should never have broken our engagement, never have treated you that way. There hasn't been a day in 3 years that I haven't regretted it. I'm so sorry. Can you give me another chance? The room erupted. People couldn't believe their ears. Zhu Yangchuan was groveling in front of the entire elite circle, begging for a second chance while his wife stood right there. Xiaolu turned white as a sheet. She rushed over and grabbed his arm, her voice reaching a shrill, desperate pitch. Zhu Yangchuan, have you lost your mind saying this in front of everyone? What about me? Yangchuan shook her off with a look of pure loathing. Shut up, he roared. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't be in this mess. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't have lost her. Get away from me. Xiaolu stumbled back, nearly falling. The sheer hatred in his eyes sent her into a fit of silent, shaking sobs. She didn't dare speak again, but she glared at me with eyes full of poison. Yangchuan turned back to me, his expression one of pathetic, bottom-tier desperation. Nan, I know it's late, but I truly see it now. I was blinded, possessed. I threw away the best thing in my life for nothing. Can we please just start over, please? He reached out to grab my hand. Before he could even come close, Xie Changyuan's hand clamped down on his wrist. Changyuan sat beside me, his other arm possessively around my waist, radiating a lethal, suffocating pressure. Mr. Zhu, Changyuan said, his voice low and dangerous. Know your place. My wife is not someone you get to touch. The word wife hit Yangchuan like a thunderbolt. He jerked his head up, looking from Changyuan to me in utter shock. Wife Nan, you married him. I leaned back into Changyuan's chest and lifted my left hand, letting the massive diamond catch the light. That's right, Xie Changyuan is my husband. Yangchuan stared at the ring, his strength leaving him. He staggered back, the light in his eyes completely extinguished. He finally understood. He hadn't just lost a girl, he had lost the only person who could have saved him. The treasure he had discarded was now forever out of his reach. The whispers in the room grew louder, dripping with mockery. Serves him right, dumping a woman like her for that girl, and now he wants her back. Pathetic. Does he even have a mirror? Look at President Shen's status now. He's a joke compared to her husband. Xie Changyuan is a global titan. They're a match made in heaven. Zhu is a nobody now. Yanchuan's face flushed red, then turned ashen. He looked at me, desperate for one last tether. Nan, even if you're married, what about our 10 years together? Doesn't that count for anything? Don't you care about our past at all? He was actually trying to guilt-trip me with the good old days. I let out a sharp, cold laugh. Mr. Zhu, you have the nerve to bring up our past. I paused, letting every word sink in. I gave up my education, my career, and my very self for you. I spent 5 years learning to be your perfect little puppet. And you, 3 days before our wedding, you humiliated me and my family in front of the entire world. You made me a laughingstock. I watched him crumble further. You want to talk about feelings? Where were those feelings when you threw me to the wolves? Now that you're a failure and your life is in the gutter, you suddenly remember our history. Don't you think that's a bit too convenient? He was speechless, his head hanging low as he trembled. And besides, I added, glancing at the sobbing Xiaolu, you're begging your ex-fiancé for a second chance while your wife is standing right there. It's hilarious. You said you didn't want to miss out on the one you love. What happened? Did the love run out? Yangchuan looked at Xiaolu with nothing but disgust and regret. He realized his true love was a shallow trap, and he had traded a diamond for a piece of glass. I looked at him and felt nothing, no joy in his pain, no lingering heartache, just a profound sense of indifference. This man who had occupied my entire youth was now just a stranger. Mr. Zhu, I said quietly, I forgot about the past a long time ago. Whether you live well or die in a ditch has nothing to do with me. Don't ever bother me again. We are square. I turned away from him and looked up at Chung Yuan. Chung Yuan, it's too loud in here, let's go get some air. Chung Yuan's eyes softened instantly. Anything you want. He stood up, his hand firm on my waist, and led me toward the terrace, leaving a broken Ju Yangchuan and a room full of gossips behind. Out on the terrace, the evening breeze was cool and smelled of night-blooming jasmine. Chung Yuan wrapped his arms around me from behind, resting his chin on my head. Are you okay? I turned in his arms and hugged his waist, smiling. I'm fine, I let go of him a long time ago. Seeing him now, I just realize how much time I wasted being young and naive. He leaned down and kissed my forehead. It's over now, as long as I'm here, no one will ever hurt you again. I leaned into him, listening to the steady beat of his heart. I felt safe, I felt home. The scars, the humiliation, the tears, they were all in the rearview mirror. I had my career, my family, and a man who truly loved me. I had become the woman I was meant to be. We hadn't been on the terrace long when hurried footsteps echoed behind us, followed by a sharp, piercing scream. I turned to see Lin Xiaolu charging at me. Her hair was a mess, her makeup smeared with tears. She looked like a feral animal. "Shen Nan, you bitch," she shrieked, pointing a finger at my face. "You've been gone for 3 years, why did you have to come back? The moment you show your face, you steal Yanchuan's soul. What the hell is wrong with you?" I stared at her, genuinely amused by her hysteria. Before I could even open my mouth, Chung Yuan stepped in front of me. His gaze was like ice, and his voice carried a weight that could crush a soul. "Watch your mouth," he said, his voice low but vibrating with power. "Disrespect my wife again, and I won't just destroy the Jews, I'll make sure you and your entire family vanish from this city forever." Xiaolu froze, she recoiled, trembling with a primal fear. She knew he wasn't bluffing. One word from Xie Chung Yuan, and her entire world, everything she had lied and cheated for, would be pulverized into dust. I stepped out from behind Chung Yuan and fixed a frigid stare on Xiaolu. "Lin Xiaolu, let's get one thing straight. You were the one who seduced my fiancé, ruined my wedding, and made me the laughingstock of the city. For you to call me a temptress now, don't you find that a bit rich?" Xiaolu bit her lip, her eyes brimming with calculated tears. "Yangchuan chose me, he said I was the one he loved. If you hadn't come back today to lure him away, he never would have said those things to me. He wouldn't be asking for a divorce." I let out a sharp laugh. "Xiaolu, are you really that naive? Yangchuan isn't crawling back to me because of love. He's crawling back because he's a failure whose life is in the gutter, and he wants to hitch his wagon to my success. He abandoned me for you back then. Why is it a surprise that he'd abandon you for his future now?" I paused, leaning in. "And did you really think I wouldn't dig up your past? You're no innocent student, you're a fraud who fabricated an entire identity to worm your way into his life. You were never after his heart, you were after his bank account." Xiaolu turned deathly pale. You're making things up." "Am I? Then let's lay it all out for everyone to see." I grabbed her wrist and marched her back into the main ballroom. The room went silent the moment we reappeared. Every eye was on us, hungry for the fallout. Yangchuan was still standing there, looking like a hollow shell, but he snapped his head up when he saw me. A staff member discreetly handed me a microphone. I swept my gaze across the elite crowd. "Ladies and gentlemen, apologies for the interruption, Mr. Ju just claimed that his decision to break our engagement was based on true love. I think it's time we all see what that love actually looks like." The tension was suffocating. I looked at the trembling girl beside me and spoke with surgical precision. "Miss Lin Xiaolu claims to come from a family of scholars, daughter of professors, a girl of pure and humble origins. In reality, her parents are ordinary laborers, and she has spent years using her innocent facade to scam men out of their money long before she ever met Ju Yangchuan." Gasp after gasp rippled through the hall. Xiaolu shrieked, "Lies. You have no proof." I offered a cold smirk and signaled to the tech crew. The massive LED screen behind me flickered to life. It displayed her real government ID, her actual background, and a mountain of evidence: chat logs of her scouting targets, bank transfers from previous marks, and forged documents. But I didn't stop there. The screen shifted to show her funneling Jew group assets to her relatives and intimate chat logs with other men after her marriage. The ballroom erupted into a cacophony of disgust. "My God, she's a total pro, a complete con artist. She didn't just play Yangchuan, she bled him dry and cheated on him. How trashy can you get? No wonder the Jews are failing. He traded a diamond for a parasite." Yangchuan stared at the screen, his eyes bloodshot, his entire body shaking with a violent, primal rage. He finally realized his soulmate was a meticulously crafted lie. He hadn't just lost his heart, he had lost his legacy to a common thief. Xiaolu's legs gave out, and she collapsed onto the floor, sobbing incoherently. No, it's fake, they faked it. I looked down at her. You thought you could climb to the top by stepping on me, but you forgot one thing, Xiaolu, a house built on lies eventually falls. It's time you paid the price. Yang Chuan snapped. He lunged forward, grabbing Xiaolu by the collar and hauling her up. You lied to me, he roared, his voice cracking. 3 years of lies. I was a blind fool to throw Nan away for a rat like you. Xiaolu, gasping for air, finally broke. She screamed back. Oh, now it's my fault. You're the one who said you loved me. You think you're so noble. If you weren't a shallow prick who wanted a pretty young thing and hated that Nan was smarter and stronger than you, I never could have played you. You got exactly what you deserved. The two of them began to tear into each other right there in front of everyone, shouting insults, airing their filth, and exposing every ugly secret of their marriage. It was a pathetic, repulsive spectacle. The once mighty CEO and his true love had become the city's biggest circus act. I felt nothing but a sense of closure. Every bit of shame they heaped on me 3 years ago had come back to them tenfold. This was their karma. Chang Yuan walked up and draped his suit jacket over my shoulders. It's getting chilly, he said softly. This circus isn't worth our time, let's go. I nodded, took his arm and walked out without a backward glance. My revenge was complete. Their fate was their own making now. I had a much more important life to get back to. The scandal trended for weeks. The public mocked Yang Chuan for his legendary lack of judgment and slammed Xiaolu for her predatory fraud. I, on the other hand, was firmly cemented as the queen of the capital, the powerhouse head of Nanyuan Group and wife of the world's most powerful financier. The fallout was swift. Yang Chuan and Xiaolu's divorce was a bloodbath in court. Yang Chuan tried to claw back the stolen assets while Xiaolu fought for a settlement. In the end, Xiaolu was convicted of large-scale fraud and sentenced to 3 years in prison. Yang Chuan recovered some funds, but the Zhu Group was a sinking ship. His reputation was radioactive, investors fled, banks called in loans, and the company plummeted toward bankruptcy. In his desperation, Yang Chuan tried to find me. He haunted my office building and my parents' home, begging for a single minute of my time. I never saw him. I had him blocked on everything. But he wouldn't stop. He eventually resorted to kneeling at my parents' gate, begging them to put in a good word. When my parents told me, they were livid. The nerve of that man. After everything he did, he thinks he can beg for mercy. Don't you dare go near him, Nan. Don't worry, Mom, I said, my voice turning cold. I'm not heartless, but I'm not a fool. He crossed the line when he started bothering you. I had intended to let him rot in peace, but since he insisted on harassing my family, I decided to finish him. I called my team. Give me the full audit on the Zhu Group. I want their last lifeline. The Zhu Group was clinging to a single new energy project, their last hope of survival. It happened to be a direct competitor to a project Nanyuan was launching. I smiled. You want to use this to bounce back, Yang Chuan? I'll cut the cord myself. In 2 weeks we executed a total surgical strike. We poached their suppliers, hired away their lead engineers with better offers, and launched a superior product before they could even hit the market. The Zhu Group's project didn't just fail, it vanished. The stock bottomed out, the banks seized everything, every house, every car, every cent Yang Chuan owned was auctioned off. He went from a high-flying CEO to a man over 100 million in debt with nothing but the clothes on his back. He collapsed and was rushed to the hospital. When he came out, he was a pariah. His friends disappeared, and his relatives treated him like a plague. He had fallen from the clouds straight into the mud. I stopped following the news after that. He was a pebble on the side of the road, inconsequential. Chang Yuan pulled me into his arms later that night. Feel better? I leaned back and smiled. Much better. I wasn't going to go for the kill, but he wouldn't leave my parents alone. He brought it on himself. Chang Yuan kissed the top of my head. I've got your back, Nan, always. No one touches what's mine. I turned around, looped my arms around his neck and kissed him. With him by my side, I had all the strength I needed to face the world and to deal with anyone who ever dared to try and break me. After settling the score with Zhu Yangchuan, my life finally returned to a state of profound peace. I poured all my energy into work, leading the Nanyuan Group's domestic operations to new heights. We secured one major contract after another, cementing our position as the undisputed titan of the domestic financial industry. At the same time, I launched a foundation to support female entrepreneurs, specifically designed to fund women with dreams and talent. I wanted to help them realize their worth and break free from the shackles of societal expectations. Having lived through days of being belittled and dismissed, I wanted to be a beacon of light for women in the dark. I wanted them to understand a woman's life doesn't have to revolve around a man or a household. By relying on ourselves, we can shine brilliantly on our own terms. On the day the foundation launched, the press conference was packed with media and high-profile guests. Chong Yuan stood by my side throughout, his support unwavering. A reporter asked, "President Shen, what was your original inspiration for starting this foundation?" I picked up the mic and offered a calm smile to the cameras. "My goal is simple. I want to tell every woman out there, do not let the world's expectations bind you. Do not let marriage or family define who you are. We possess infinite possibilities. You can pursue a career, chase a dream, or be whoever you want to be. Never sacrifice your personal growth for anyone. Independence and self-confidence are the strongest foundations a woman can have in this life." My words went viral instantly. Thousands of women left comments saying they found strength in my story. Looking at those messages, I felt a deep sense of fulfillment. I had finally become the woman I wanted to be, and in doing so, I was giving hope to others. After the launch, Chong Yuan took me back to the overseas city where we first met to hold the grand wedding we had promised each other. We were married in a beautiful seaside chapel, surrounded by close friends, business partners, and my grandfather, who had flown in specifically for the occasion. As I walked down the aisle in my white gown, arm in arm with my grandfather, I saw his eyes glisten with tears. When I reached the altar, Chong Yuan took my hands and looked into my eyes, speaking his vows with a gravity that moved everyone in the room. "Shen Nan, from the first moment I saw you, you became the only light in my life for the rest of our days. I will respect you, support you, and love you in wealth or poverty. In health or sickness, I will be your unwavering partner. I will always be your backup." Tears of joy blurred my vision. "Xie Chong Yuan, thank you for coming into my life and teaching me what real love looks like. From here on out, we walk side by side forever." The applause was thunderous and didn't stop for a long time. We spent 2 months on our honeymoon, traveling the world and soaking in every beautiful vista. When we returned, our life remained a sweet, steady rhythm. Chong Yuan never expected me to sacrifice my career for the home. Instead, he pushed me to go even further. When I was buried in work, he handled the household. When I worked late, he stayed up with me. When I hit a snag, he was my rock. We were husband and wife, but we were also comrades in arms and soulmates who understood each other's silence. Friends often say to me, "Nan, you really are living the life every woman dreams of: a peak career, a happy family, and a husband who adores you." I always smile and nod. I am happy, but I know the truth. This happiness wasn't a gift from a man. I earned it. It came because I didn't collapse when I was hurt. I fought my way out of the abyss, built an empire with my own 2 hands, and became exactly who I wanted to be. And because I became a powerful, independent woman, I attracted a man as powerful as Xie Chong Yuan, a man who actually knows how to value and respect me. The best investment a woman can make is always in herself. When you are strong and capable, no one can truly ruin you. When you are hurt, you have the power to walk away and the strength to strike back. Only then will you meet someone truly worthy of walking beside you. As the years passed, our bond only grew stronger. We eventually had a beautiful daughter who grew up to be as sharp as she was sweet. She is the light of our lives. I often hold her and tell her, "Sweetheart, a girl must be independent, confident, and brave. Live for yourself and never stop growing for the sake of someone else." She nods, only half understanding, and wraps her little arms around my neck. "I know, Mommy. I want to be just like you. I want to be someone powerful." Looking at the spark in her eyes, I feel my heart melt. I hope my daughter, and all girls, remain clear-headed, independent, and brave. I want them to be their own sons, needing no one else's light to shine. As for Zhu Yangchuan, the man who was once a massive part of my youth, he finally reached his inevitable end, crushed by hundreds of millions in debt. He was blacklisted by the courts as a dishonest debtor. He was banned from high-speed trains, flights, and any form of luxury spending. With no degree, no modern skills, and a mountain of debt, he couldn't find a decent job. He ended up as a day laborer on construction sites, doing backbreaking work for a pittance just to survive while creditors hounded his every step. The elite circles in the capital have long since forgotten him. No one mentions the mighty CEO anymore. He was a falling star that blinked briefly before vanishing into total darkness. Occasionally, a friend will mention him, their voice full of pity, asking if I feel any regret for him. I always shake my head. He chose his path. He should have seen this coming the moment he made his choice 3 years ago. I am no saint, I don't forgive those who tried to destroy me, and I don't go soft on them, but I also don't let them occupy a single inch of my heart. The best revenge isn't a screaming match or a messy obsession, it's living a life 100 times, 1,000 times better than theirs, becoming someone they can never ever reach again, and I did it.